Hey folks, this is the one and only Warwolf howling out at you. Sorry about this video being a little late. You know, things got a little crazy the last couple of days. Oh, and apparently there's a hacking scam or some kind going on around Discord, so I had to deal with that, sort of. Anyway, so here is your review for AEW Dynamite for April the 26th, 2023. I'm going to try to get up a review of Rampage later on this same night or early this coming morning, as it's now technically 12:30 is in the morning as I'm making this particular recording. First and foremost, pretty interesting night that we had on Wednesday. So let me remind you again, this is Dynamite and this is AEW. So we started off with Orange Cassidy defending the International Championship against Bandito. And this was a hell of a match, but I don't think anything could really top this. Now, this may seem like, oh, it's just a gorilla press slam. No, that's a guy using one arm to do a gorilla press slam. I cannot words this morning. But yes, that is Bandito lifting up the International Champion with one arm, or rather holding him with one arm. He picked him up with both and then was just holding him with a single arm. And, well, single hand technically, but you get the idea. So that was pretty damned impressive. Now, ultimately, the beach break is ultimately what ends up getting the win for Orange Cassidy after the orange punch. Now, I've been saying for a while I thought he was potentially going to have to relinquish the championship because of the injury to that hand. I don't know what's going on there, but apparently that hand is feeling better than we knew. So, I mean, he was able to use it tonight, or use it on Wednesday, I should say. So then we get a promo by Adam Cole. Now, Adam Cole had to sit there and watch officially now 2 weeks ago, or at least close to it anyway, when Britt Baker was attacked by the Outcasts, pretty much seemingly on the direction from Chris Jericho just to mess with Adam Cole. So Adam Cole says he's going to call out Chris Jericho, and if Jericho doesn't show up, he's going to come find him. So pretty damned impressive set there. Again, remember that Adam Cole and Britt Baker are dating in real life, so a lot of this was probably based off of real emotion. Yes, it's a storyline, but, I mean, come on, that's got to be a hard thing to watch, even if you're basically going along with the story. But anyway, next we get a rather interesting promo between these two men, Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Darby Allin, and I kind of thought this was pretty interesting. They had a little bit of a back and forth. You know, basically, Darby saying, I'm sorry that, I wasn't, at floor level. Instead, that I was up on the rafters while I was watching your match with Sammy Guevara last week. And they do kind of, have a little bit of back and forth there. But then they make this rather interesting moment happen where Darby kind of gets in this dig. It's like, oh, I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to be in this match together this week for the finales of the Pillars tournament, because I would have beat you again. I've got to admit, that's kind of a smarmy move for Darby, and I kind of like it. I'll admit, I'm kind of here for it. I don't know if it's the best thing I've ever seen, but I mean, I've honestly seen worse. But it's nice to see Darby coming out of his shell. We haven't seen Sting all that often, but I think he was kind of channeling Sting with this. So, yeah, there's that. Next, we got Jeff Jarrett taking on Dax Harwood of FTR. Now, there's been a storyline going right now where Jay Lethal is kind of playing on a 20-odd-year friendship between himself and Mark Briscoe. Now, as we all know, Jay Briscoe passed away through very unfortunate circumstances in January, and again, we wish all the best to Jay's wife and children, of course, Mark Briscoe and the rest of the Briscoe family. But we've got a storyline now where Mark is basically kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. Because on one end, he's got Jay Lethal, who was a longtime friend of his, and on the other hand, he's got FTR, whom he also has a good relationship with. And we know that Jay kind of came up to him a couple of weeks ago, being, buttering him up and going, hey, we should be working together. We should join forces. And Mark seemed like he was all for it. And it turns out, he's trying to pull Briscoe into this alliance between himself and Jeff Jarrett and Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh. And as you might expect, Briscoe's not particularly happy about that. So we actually had a pretty decent match here between Jarrett and Dax Harwood. Now remember, FTR have stated they are only going to stick around for another 4 years. So basically, assuming they're counting like the end of this year as not being part of that, then it's technically 4.5. But either way, we're looking at potentially like 2026 to 2027. I think is going to be the countdown year for FTR because they might be retiring at that point. At least that was the implication that they gave us a few weeks ago. So that is what we're looking at there. Next we have, some more cheating and shenanigans by Jarrett and company. So, is anybody really surprised about this? Jarrett gets the win via the stroke thanks to interference by Sanjay Dutt. And by the way, I want to point out, Dutt and Satnam Singh and Jay Lethal had all been sent to the back by the referees. Dutt came out anyway. So, that's a whole thing. But then we got the announcement by Tony Khan. Now, we weren't sure what this announcement was going to be. And it turns out it is the announcement of the second Owen Hart Cup. So anybody who saw this, the only time it's been run before this, this is a big deal. This is phenomenal. So we know that the finals are apparently going to take place not only in Canada, but apparently in Owen's hometown. So I don't know if they're going to go with the idea of his hometown being Calgary, Alberta, Canada, or wherever it was he was living prior to his unfortunate passing in 1999. I don't know if he actually was living in Calgary at the time, but God only knows. Next, we get a match with Wardlow. I don't even know who it was. I don't think it matters. This was a squash match if ever there was one. And it's nice to see him basically running people over, but I don't know. It's like, I get the feeling that this guy might be somebody who's probably on AEW Dark or might be on Elevation, but holy shit, this was a squash match. I'm sorry, no other word for this. It was a squash match. Next, we get Anna Jay coming down to the ring, cutting a not Anna Jay. I'll get back to that. That's for another show. I'm sorry, my script looked a little weird, folks. Sue me. So we have Arn Anderson, I should say, cutting a promo. And out walks these two men, Luchasaurus and Christian. Now, anybody who has been following my videos for the last few weeks knows I've been saying I really want to see them get away from the feud with Jungle Boy, let him be his own thing, and them do their own thing. It looks like that's what's happening. We had Luchasaurus and Christian come out, and then, Christian almost got into the ring, but then he backed up. Now, Christian is no coward. He's never really played the overly cowardly heel kind of character. So I have to think there's some kind of mind games being played here. Something's going on, and I think either Christian or Luchasaurus are going to go after the TNT Championship, but we're going to have to wait and see how that whole thing works out. We know that Christian has stated he wants to win a championship in 2023, We know that Luchasaurus has not really been in singles competition too much in AEW. And right now, Christian is seemingly acting in a managerial capacity once again. So maybe it's going to be Luchasaurus versus Wardlow. Maybe it's going to be Wardlow versus Christian. It might even be some kind of a three-way dance at some point. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. So then, speaking of promos, we get a promo backstage between MJF and Sammy Guevara. I have no idea what in God's name I was watching when this happened. I really don't. Like, okay, they're acting a bit like goofballs. They're giving each other gifts. Sammy's basically created like a biker jacket thing for MJF, and MJF gives him a plaid scarf. I don't know what in God's name I was watching here. But I will echo the sentiments of Tony Schiavone later on in the show, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But, yeah, this was bizarre. And this was a little screwed up, I mean, as promos go. You know, credit to Renee Paquette. I mean, it's very clear from this shot. I mean, she's trying so hard not to laugh at the stupidity of what these guys are saying. You know, and give her all the credit in the world. She stayed professional. I'm not sure how. But I honestly, I'm wondering if the idea here was to just say the goofiest things imaginable and see if they can get Renee to break character. They didn't really fully succeed. I mean, they got this one moment of like a complete smirk on her face, like she's trying so hard not to laugh. But, I mean, give it credit where it's due. She did manage not to lose it. So all the credit in the world to her for that. Seriously, what the hell was this? Because I have no idea what I just watched. So then we got another moment here where I can't remember the guy's RJ City or whatever the hell his name is here. Some random interviewer, and he might be from Dark or Dark Elevation. I don't know, but he got attacked. He got laid out by the Blackpool Combat Club. Random. I'm sorry. This was completely random. I have no idea what this was all about. So next we get, you know, what I was getting at before, where we literally have basically, you know, Darby versus Sammy. And Darby and Sammy are basically in the finale of the tournament for the Four Pillars title shot tournament, basically, for lack of a better term. So we have Darby and Sammy, and they're basically throwing one hell of a match at us. And one thing I will say, though, is MJF, when he came out, this was hilarious. For, honestly, I don't know if it was the right reasons, the wrong reasons, or no reason. But, long story very short, we get this moment where he's trying to get the announcers to partake in kosher dill pickles while this match is going on. I don't know what to say about this. I don't know if there is anything I can say about this. But long story short, it was hilarious. I'll be honest, when I think of kosher pickles, specifically kosher dills, I'm going to go with Nathan's Famous, but that's just because I'm a Brooklyn boy. I will say this, though. Tony Schiavone, during this match, I mean, he's running commentary while, you know, Sammy versus Darby is going on, and he does kind of mention something that I will say this is like, he thinks this whole thing is jump the shark, which I was very surprised to hear him use that phrase. It's like, I don't think anybody's used that phrase on TV in a long time. But, okay, credit where it's due. It's a slightly obscure reference at this point, but, yeah, I mean, it works. And I loved him taking Taz, of all people, to task over this, because Taz is trying to defend the whole thing about MJF paying off Sammy to lay down for him. And Tony is just he's just reading him the riot act. You know, it was a phenomenal way to go with this, and I really liked seeing that. You know, I mean, Taz is a former world champion. Granted, he is more or less the heel commentator of the group for the most part. And yeah, I can see him trying to defend this because, again, that's what a heel commentator would do. But still, like, I loved seeing Tony take him to task on it. But here's where things get interesting. So we get the end of the match. You know, Sammy wins thanks to the aid of, you know, basically the Dynamite Diamond Ring, I think it was. Or whatever. No, it wasn't the Dynamite Diamond Ring. That was last week. No, what happened this week was he comes to the ring. He does have the Dynamite Diamond Ring, I think, on his finger. Because I do remember seeing him doing something with his hand. I thought that was what he was going for. But no, what he does is he grabs Darby's skateboard, picks it up, throws it to Darby, and then Sammy pulls an Eddie Guerrero by loudly dropping to the mat and gets himself and gets Darby disqualified. So, yeah, I mean, credit where it's due. That was really a unique way to go with this. It was weird, to say the least, but okay. It was slightly creative. But the one thing that I do want to bring up is, like, during the match, Sammy did this beautiful 630-degree senton splash on Darby through a table. That was impressive. I mean, we knew this was going to end in a screw job because, again, I mean, MJF is right there. So here we have the Dumbass Twins celebrating over this. Hey, look at this. Here's our main event for Double or Nothing. And Sammy's going to do the right thing and is going to lay down because I'm going to pay him to do so. And if he doesn't, the check's not going to clear. And then we get Tony Schiavone getting to really just take them both down a peg. And I wish I'd gotten a screenshot of this because it was awesome. He literally says that Tony Khan, who we found out was very upset about the way things had ended with the previous Pillars tournament match, which of course was Sammy versus Jack Perry. So for some reason, I almost said Jack Darby. I don't know why. Because I'm thinking of Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Darby Allin from earlier, plus Sammy Guevara. So that's probably that whole thing. But, so Tony says that Tony Khan is now making a specifically impromptu match for next week. Now, I've been calling a Fatal 4-Way for weeks as one of the possibilities for Double or Nothing. And I think they are going to do this. So we've got a match this coming Wednesday. It's going to be the Dumbass Twins here, referring to, MJF and Sammy Guevara, and they're going to be teaming up against Darby and Jack. So it's a tag team match with very, very unique stakes. If Guevara and Friedman win, it will be basically just a match, if you want to call it a match, where he's just going to lay down for MJF at Double or Nothing. But should Darby and Perry win, then it will be a Fatal 4-Way at Double or Nothing. And like I said, I've been predicting that Fatal 4-Way for a while. I've been saying that was one of two things that I thought they were going to do other than potentially just a one-on-one between MJF and Jungle Boy Jack Perry. The other two, of course, the Fatal 4-Way and possibly a gauntlet match. So I think they are settling in for the Fatal 4-Way. I think we're going to see that happen this Wednesday night, and we're going to see that match happen. Because I really don't think they're going to do something that stupid, because nobody will buy a pay-per-view if they already know that the main event is going to be somebody laying down for the other guy. I just don't see that happening. So then we get Adam Cole, he comes out, and as he said, he's going to challenge, Chris Jericho to come out, and Jericho refuses, but he sends out members of the JAS. And strangely enough, the people who come out to help against the JAS end up being Orange Cassidy and Bandito. Now, that's a little surprising to me because I didn't really think that Orange Cassidy really gave a shit about pretty much anybody. Like, at all. Outside of the best friends. And he's really just been kind of a, lackadaisical, character. He really doesn't seem to give that much of a damn about stuff. So, I could almost see Bandito doing it simply because, Bandito had an incredible match with Chris Jericho when Jericho was the Ring of Honor World Champion. And he might have some animosity still lingering for the JAS. I don't know. But we do know that we have something rather unique that has happened here. What is it? Well, Cole, Cassidy, and Bandito have backup. Roderick Strong has arrived in AEW. So, for those people who do not know, Roderick Strong and Adam Cole do have history. I don't know that much about it, admittedly, but they are apparently longtime friends, and they have worked together in Ring of Honor. So, yeah, this is a thing. So seeing them back together, it looks like Jericho's now going to have to deal with a new potential adversary for the JAS. I'm still not sure why Orange Cassidy and Bandito came down to help, but that did happen, so we'll see what happens with the storyline. We got another segment with QTV. I'm sorry, I don't understand the purpose of these segments. Basically, the one thing I can say about it is Powerhouse Hobbs bursts in on QT Marshall and his sidekicks and is basically like, fix this, I want the TNT title back, and QT's like, yeah, I'll get it done, my word is my bond. What is the purpose of these segments? Because I don't know. Then we get the TBS title on the line, Taya Valkyrie versus Boring. Yes, I know her name is Jade Cargill, I'm sorry. She's boring to me, therefore I'm just going to call her Boring. Boring wins thanks to outside shenanigans. Do not care. I don't think anybody in their right mind cares. Then we get a promo from Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter on the Outcast, which is kind of interesting. We learned that Bullet Club Gold, that's Juice Robinson and Switchblade Jay White, will be taking on Ricky Starks and Sean Spears on Rampage, which aired on Saturday this coming week, actually. It aired on Friday this past week at around like 6:30 Eastern, and it's going to be airing at something like, what is it? Like 5:30 or whatever the hell it is on this coming Friday. So figure that one out. So then we get our main event. The Butcher and the Blade versus Kenny Omega and Konosuke Takeshita. This is a pretty decent match when you get right down to it. And strangely enough, we get Bryan Danielson coming out for guest commentary. So it's kind of an interesting situation to see that. Because we know that Konosuke Takeshita had stated at one point that he looked up to Bryan Danielson, that he saw him as a hero. And we get the match with Kenny and Kono coming off with the win with a power drive knee. You know, the Butcher and the Blade, I don't even know why these two were chosen to be their opponents, but I'll give them this. Takeshita and Omega had one hell of a showing out there for a team that had never wrestled together before. And again, I'm trying to find out if Takeshita is about to become a member of the Elite. Well, Bryan Danielson comes down to the ring, and basically, he and the BCC attack. They basically end up in a situation where they end up going after Kenny and threaten to go after Takeshita. Here comes the Young Bucks. So the Young Bucks are back. So it's good to see them back. And, it's pretty crazy. But the BCC managed to take out the Bucks and Kenny, and then they attack Takeshita when he tries to talk some sense into them. So this has been a pretty crazy thing for Rampage coming up on the next couple of days later, which of course was Friday the 28th. It is now, again, April the 30th as I'm recording this, and I'm going to try to do another one later today. So long story short, it was a crazy show. I don't really know if I liked it or not, but I do know it was interesting enough that, Dynamite certainly got me interested in seeing what was going to happen on Rampage. And, I'll be doing a review of that in a couple of hours, if not later tonight. Either way, it should go up in a couple of hours. So I do want you all to enjoy this review. If you did happen to like the video, please give it a like, hit subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a comment or two, and let me know what you thought. So this is basically Warwolf howling out at you, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace!